watch this? How?
Ew,
How do you watch this?
Dude, I'm gonna pee my pants.
Hello, this is How Do You Watch This, a movie review podcast where each week we give each other a movie to watch in the genre we love, but they don't. My name is Demi, and I love horror.
My name is Megan, and I love romance.
And this week I had Megan watch the movie His House, which is a Netflix distributed movie featuring...
Oh, yeah, I didn't even look up the name of the actors because I'm garbage. Actually, I looked up one actor because I recognize his face.
Yeah. Oh, Matt Smith, yeah.
Yeah.
The
I
white
was
guy.
like, wait. Yeah.
Featuring
Call me now.
Wunmi Mosaku, who you might recognize from Loki series. She plays the one officer.
Oh.
And she is
been
also
so
in
long.
Lovecraft Country, which is where I
haven't
first
seen
saw
that.
her. You haven't watched
Yeah.
it?
No, I know
good.
I should.
Yeah,
For
it's
good things from you.
Yeah. She's a really good actress, so I was very excited to see her in this movie.
What's Bowl? What's his?
So, the actor's name is Soapy Dirisu.
Okay. And is he from anything?
He seems like a newer actor. There wasn't anything too new other than the Mr. Malcolm's List. He was in that.
Oh, okay. I did watch that. Was he the lead?
I did not
might have
watch
been
it,
the
but I think he
lead.
was the lead. Yeah.
Yeah, he was. I watched it.
I forgot
Oh,
about
yeah,
this.
yeah,
I
he
meant
was
to
the lead.
watch it, and I did not watch it.
Yeah, it's good. It's not my favorite.
Yeah.
I forget what I didn't like about it. I think it was also, it doesn't really compare to Bridgerton.
Gotcha.
I think it left something to be desired with I think that there was a little bit of spice missing.
Yeah.
But it is based on a novel. Oh, maybe I'm thinking of the book that I didn't like the book as much. Anyway, I'll rewatch it at some point and maybe I'll make you watch it. Okay, so the movie is directed by Remy Weeks and it was released in 2020. My synopsis, summary, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I started it with a byline. I don't know why. But anyway, his house is history. His house is a story of survival, loss, and overcoming personal demons. Bol and Rial, I think I'm pronouncing it correctly, right? Bol and Rial Major have escaped war-torn Sudan and have been given asylum in England. The home they are given is larger than most allotted to refugees, hinting at the possible sinister history of the house. Shortly after moving in, Bol begins to experience oddities that cause him distress. He tears the wallpaper off and hammers holes in the drywall, all in an attempt to get at a mysterious entity that seems to haunt him. Rial goes to a nurse one day and confesses that they lost their daughter while traveling across the sea on their way to England. At dinner that night, she tells the legend of the Apeth, or is it Apeth? Apeth, or Night Witch. This creature attached itself to a thief after his wrongdoing. She feels like an Apeth has followed them from the ocean. It speaks to her, and she knows he feels it too. And by he, I mean Bol. In an effort to rid themselves of the Night Witch, Bol decides to burn everything they have from Sudan, including the doll that belonged to their daughter, as well as a necklace. Bol wants to assimilate English culture. He buys them new clothes and gets a new haircut. Rial, on the other hand, clings to the traditions of their culture and at one point is seen walking around in a sheet to represent the traditional dress that they would wear. She speaks with the Night Witch and discovers that it will return their daughter if they pay the price. After a particularly bad vision, Bol goes to Mark, played by Matt Smith, who originally brought them to the house. He says that they need to leave, which causes suspicion amongst the powers that be at the office. I don't really know what the office is called. It's probably Office of, I don't know, Refugees or something.
Yeah, like social worker type of deal.
An impromptu investigation leads the office to discover the state of the house in disarray due to Bol's ministrations. Rial tells them that there is a witch, which definitely doesn't help things. Bol promises that he will fix the house. Rial says that she's going to leave and go back to Sudan, and Bol refuses to let her go. He ends up breaking every lock in the house and making it inescapable, which is super abusive and very toxic. He then decides to confront the witch, and it tells him that he must sacrifice himself for his daughter. Rial tries to leave the house. She ends up escaping, getting through a window, and it leads her into a vision that fills in the blanks of their history. So we learn that in Sudan, Rial had managed to escape slaughter by hiding in a small cupboard in a schoolroom. All of the other women in her tribe were killed at her feet. Bol came in and helped her leave the town. When they came upon a bus headed out, they were not permitted on board because they did not have children with them. Bol picked up a girl standing nearby and proclaimed that they did. However, this child was not theirs. She had been ripped from her mother, never to be reunited. Then, during their ocean journey, the refugee boat ended up flooding or tossing. They don't really say what happened, but everyone is in the water. Bol does everything he can to save Rial, who is screaming, saying to save the child. In his effort to bring his wife to safety, he ends up not being able to help the girl, and she dies. This is the story that haunts them both, and it is the reason why they are being pursued by the Apeth. Bol decides to sacrifice himself, and the witch shows up, digging its fingers into his wound, which is my deleted scene. I hated that.
Yeah, that was really gross.
Yeah. Rial saves the day by slaughtering the witch. The movie ends with the office showing up at the house again. The walls have been patched, and they're in the process of painting everything white. And when asked about the witch, Bol explains that he had to let the ghost in to face himself. So that's the movie. The gist of it. I cut out basically every nitty-gritty little hallucination and scene.
Yeah.
And you never really know if it was actually a witch or if it was all a hallucination or like this kind of joint experience. And
right.
One of the things they do that hints that it was a real witch is that at the end of the movie, the witch comes out of the floor and breaks through the tiles and rips them up. And when the office comes to check on the place, you can see that there's a rug that's been placed over what looks like a depression in the ground.
Yeah.
So that kind of hints at there having been something, some sort of event that occurred there. There's clearly a lot of guilt and shame. I think some of it's survival guilt because at the end, you can see them metaphorically surrounded by the spirits of all the people left behind from their tribe. And so I think there's some survival guilt going on because they were able to escape. And some of that is pretty through some... There's a lot of dark stuff that happens. And I want to talk about that in a second. But before I do, is there anything you want to say before I go back to the beginning and chat about?
I can say a few things. So
okay.
The director's idea for this movie was like how to survive after surviving something. So like the whole theme is just like this couple escaping, but how they escaped was like really, you know, difficult and upsetting. But they got there, they got to this house, but then like also in the UK, they're still like treated not great, and they're like still outsiders, and it's just them just not just trying to survive leaving Sudan, but like also survive like this new culture and dealing with, you know, people that look at them differently. And I really liked how this movie talked about those two different themes of like, you know, Rial wanted to keep with the culture and, you know, didn't want to lose that, but Bol wants to adapt to this new culture and kind of cut ties with Sudan. Yeah. And I think it's like really interesting. And I think a lot of people that, you know, refugees or people that have to leave their home and go somewhere else kind of have that struggle with, you know, being with their culture and loving their culture and their background, but also like trying to assimilate with this new culture where some people will still look at them differently, even if they're trying to. So,
right, exactly. And that's where it really brings up a lot of interesting conversations. And that's part of where, I don't know even if I said what the genre was, that it's horror drama. And this is where like the drama elements come in because they're put in a situation that is incredibly challenging because they clearly had a beautiful life in Sudan. They had a people that they loved in the vision. When Rial goes back, she is surrounded by these women who are supporting her and like celebrating her. It's this really beautiful moment where they're all enjoying each other and lifting each other up. And then you see what happens after, which is the reason why they're forced to leave against their will is because their home is being attacked, it's being shot up, it's being looted. they have no choice but to leave. And so they're forced to leave. They're forced to come to these conditions where they don't know anyone, where they're met with minimal kindness. There's a random church that gives Bull a goodie box, which is really nice. And he spends the day kind of learning about football and the different chants that they do. And that's a really nice moment for him. But Rial has the opposite situation, which might also explain why her like clinging more to their culture, because she goes out and about. She asks some young boys for help. She must have felt more comfortable talking to them because she had walked by other people and they were white, but she found some people who were also black, and she reached out to them and was asking for help. And then they ended up heckling her and saying, go back to Africa, and we only speak English here. And she speaks English. She was perfectly communicating, but she had an accent, and they were being, harassing her. So that's not making her want to be part of English culture in any way.
Right.
And this movie talks a lot too about how challenging it is for refugees in general, because they are allotted 75 pounds a week, which is insane for two people to survive on. That's English money, so that's like even less American money. In 2020 it probably was like $50 US. That probably, wouldn't even get, I spend more than double that on groceries in a week.
It's literally just, like, it's crazy. They're not allowed to get other jobs. They're not allowed to have so much people over, and
no friends, no guests. The one quote is, no ball games, no games, no balls.
No balls. And then, like, his character, I forget Massimo's character's name.
It's Mark something.
Is it Mark? Okay. He makes a comment. He was like, oh, this place is bigger than mine. This flat's bigger than mine. And it's like, the place is garbage. Like, it's literally
trash.
When they get there, it is so awful looking, and it's dirty. There was like a pizza box with like pizza in it and maggots, and it's like, dude, like, don't act like
the electricity doesn't work. The wallpaper is, first of all, the most horrific green color, and then it's peeling, and there's holes in the walls, and it's like, this is, maybe if you had the funding to flip that house, it would be a nice space. But off 75 pounds a week, they're not going to be able to do anything to make the space their own. They also, you can see some of that, like, not being treated like humans when they get off the bus. So they're on a bus basically all through the night into the morning to get to this house. And the driver gets off the bus, takes their stuff, everything that they own is in garbage bags, 2 small black garbage bags, and he tosses it on the ground instead of handing it to them, which is just showing more of the fact that they are not being welcomed here. They are here for asylum, but no one is opening their arms and saying, come join us. Right.
And this is not a period movie. So this is, takes place around our times.
Oh,
so,
yes.
This still happens.
The language is Dinka. And so it was really nice to hear something different and to be brought into that world that they were from. I will say I was very frustrated because Netflix, I finally got a Roku. So, yay. And it's amazing. I'm literally praising it to Travis. I'm like, this is great. I can't believe this is so amazing. I go on a Netflix. You're not in this Netflix household. Because of the fact that I don't live with my mommy and daddy. And I'm on their Netflix. I can watch it on my phone, but I can't stream it onto the Roku because the TV isn't considered part of their household. The mysterious method that I was watching it, whatever, the subtitles weren't working, so it wasn't showing me what was being said in Dinka, so I had to scrub it on Netflix to get on my phone. So I was watching it on my phone and on the screen at the same time. But Netflix was being annoying, and I really hate their new thing, and I don't want to support them and give them another account.
I know.
Unless they want to support us, in which case,
you can ask your mommy really nicely.
I know.
To pay a little extra for you.
Yeah, I would just have to. I mean, I could probably pay my mom the extra money it would cost.
I forget how much more it costs. I think it's like maybe like $6. I could be very wrong, but like $5.
Oh my god, $6? What? There's too many subscriptions.
I know. It fucking adds up.
It
I'm
really
like,
does.
Oh, $5.
No,
Then
on
it's like
top
five,
of,
five, five, five. Yeah.
right. It's like
And then
on
you're
top
paying
of the,
$30 a month for bullshit.
right. I hate it. It's so annoying. And then you have a subscription, and then things get dropped from that service and put on a
Right.
different service, or they're on no service for a while.
Yep.
It's annoying.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's my rant about Netflix. Anyway,
another thing the director wanted to play with, like the idea of a lot of these haunted house movies, the families, you're just like, why don't you leave? Why don't you
Right.
get out? And
right.
there's no real excuse. So in this movie, he wanted it so like they couldn't really leave. The idea of, you get this house given to you and you can't really leave the
Yes.
house. It's not easy to.
Yeah.
So that was one thing that he wanted to do so that people weren't like, just leave.
Yes,
What's
I
wrong
thought
with
that
just
was
leaving?
really good because when they started saying that at the beginning, like, you can't live anywhere else, you have to stay here,
Yeah.
blah, blah, blah. I thought that was a really good way to force them into the house. I
Yeah.
also really liked the idea that it wasn't that the house itself was haunted, but that they had brought the ghost with them, because that is so different. At first, you're watching it, and the fact that they're getting this huge house, the fact that there's only the two of them, I'm
Yeah.
thinking that there has to be something in this house. There's something wrong with this house that's caused people to not want to live there. And then
Yeah.
you realize, no, they were actually lucky to get a decent sized house.
Yeah.
I mean, the size wise for it to just
Yeah.
be the two of them, but they brought with them this entity that is now tormenting them.
Right. So like even if they left, that's still following them,
Yeah.
and it's kind of like you said, it seems like there was like a real witch there,
Yeah.
but also it like represents just guilt, like this
Yeah.
guilt that he is not confronting. He's not confronting the fact that like he got this girl killed and pulled from her mother. Like that had to be the worst few hours of her life ever, and it's like devastating to think about. When that twist came, I was like, oh my
Dude,
god,
that's my most memorable scene.
Oh,
Obviously.
I
And
was heartbroken.
I was not expecting, because up until that point, I was like, the last people that should have to deal with a haunted house are someone who's gone through this trauma. I was thinking
Right.
to myself how horrible it is. I'm watching
Yeah.
it. This man gets scared, and I'm thinking to myself, I feel like this is so hard to watch, because in every other scary movie, you kind of are like, you kind of deserve it.
Yeah,
you know?
it's like, you kind of suck.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. And then when that happened, I was like, oh my God.
I
Like,
know.
I was baffled. And then it makes you not like him, because
Right.
he stole, first of all, he took other possible people's place on that bus. He
Yeah.
could have, that woman and child could have been together. Who knows if they both would have survived what
Yeah.
happened. You don't know that the mother might still be alive somewhere, wondering what
Yeah.
happened to her daughter. Will never have her daughter with her again. The child died. It's just, the whole thing is so messy.
I know.
And Rial ended up, you could see at first she was judging her husband. She was judging Bull
Yeah.
for having taken the girl. She kept like looking at him, and everyone was kind of looking at him.
Mhm.
And then by the time they are headed towards the boat, she has the girl in her arms, and she's promising to protect her. And
Yeah.
she takes on this mothering role for her. She accepts it and
Yeah.
fully embraces her as her daughter. And as she should at that point, because there's no way that girl is getting reunited with her mother.
No. Yeah.
At
And
least
I
not
wonder if
now.
like part of it too was like trauma, because
Yeah.
right before that, Rial like pretty much witnessed all her
Yeah.
tribe getting murdered. And
Yeah.
it just went right to like running to the bus, and like
Yeah.
I would just wonder if part of it was just her, she's just clouding everything out, and just not fully realizing what's happening.
Yes.
And and it's just like really sad. Then at first I'm like, why is Ball like saving Rial like over his daughter? Like why
Yeah.
aren't you going for your daughter? And then when it's like, oh,
Yeah.
like it's still horrible.
Yeah.
But it's just like he's on pure survival mode for his
Right.
wife, which listen, I respect it, but like
Yeah.
that's just a little too
a little too far.
awful. Yeah.
I
a little
agree.
too much.
That's why I passed on Smash or Pass. It was just a little too dark for me.
Yeah.
But I do understand the fight or flight, and he was really
Yeah.
in fight, and he was protecting the person he loves most, and I understand that. I fully get it. It's still icky. It's still dark.
I don't know if I could fully forgive my partner for doing something
No.
like that. I think it's just too, like, even if it saved us, it's just like,
right. You have to live with yourself and you have to live with him. And I think it shows the conflict that they face with each other, because there was clearly issues between the two of them. There was some abuse, and not in the typical sense, but in him not letting her leave. And then she did stab him with a screwdriver at one point.
Yeah.
There was tension between them. They're not understanding each other. And you do realize that a lot of this comes from the fact that they have this messy history that is because of stuff he did and choices he made to save them.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I don't know that I could live with myself, even being the partner of someone like that, with the guilt you would feel over having survived and the loss of those around that situation. It's painful.
Yeah. Well, at the end, it shows, you know, the ghosts of everyone. Like, they're living with it.
Yeah.
They fully know what they did, and they are surviving with that, you know, like you said, survivor's guilt, knowing what they left behind and who died.
Yeah. It also, it makes more sense because there was this point at the earlier on in the movie where he gets excited and talks to her about starting a family in England, which was really interesting. I remember being like, that's a weird way to say that.
Right.
And she was like, how quickly you forget your daughter, or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that was
when he said that, I was like, bro,
right.
like, what
do you mean start a family?
Yeah.
I don't know if there was a deeper metaphor for the necklace, but the necklace plays a part in the movie. So essentially, when they first get to the house, there's this little doll, and that doll had been the daughter's doll, and at the bottom was a beaded strand, and Rial takes that strand and wraps it around her neck and makes a necklace. And as he's burning all the belongings, Bull ends up ripping that necklace off of her and throwing it in the fire, which was really not cool of him.
Yeah.
And then later, the witch gives the necklace back to her. And I don't know if she ends the movie wearing it or not. I can't remember.
Actually, I don't think she does. One image here is from the end, and I don't think she's wearing it. Yeah, I think it was just like a way to get her to like think that she will get their daughter back if Bull does this. And then she, you know, decides to choose him over her, the daughter. So just probably for the best, because she probably wasn't going to get the daughter anyway.
Right. There's I mean,
I'm sure it was not.
her daughter wasn't going to come out of the woodwork and exist suddenly, unless this was really going to be that kind of a movie. But
yeah, I just don't think it seems like the Night Witch character. I found a little bit of stuff on it, but it seems like they just like to just take things. They like to harm people. They're just very like evil entities, and so it does come from Dinka religion.
Okay,
and it's like part of like the witchcraft and all that. So I don't know too much more into it, but it is something that is like believed in, and that it's just like a supernatural force of darkness and can latch on to people or curse them. So it's like a, you know, like the boogeyman, I guess is the best way to explain it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And the scene where the Night Witch comes out from the floor, that was all practical effect. So what they did is they dug the hole in. They had the actor go in there, and then like right before they were gonna shoot, they put dirt on his head and covered him up, and then he like crawled out. So it was pretty cool.
That is really neat.
Yeah.
I love practical effects. It was a creepy character too, like very grotesque looking. The eyes were very piercing.
Yeah, I didn't like him. He was a little spooky. It was spooky. They had some spooky.
There were some
spooky things.
At one point, there was running footstep sounds that happened. I forget when that was, but Travis was next to me only for part of it while we were eating dinner, and he like let out this huge sigh, and he was like, I was like, what? What's going on? He's like, I hate this shit.
It like, because I don't like the dark, so like the whole thing where the spirits were just coming out in the dark, and you just hear like footsteps and like the walls. I'm like, nah.
No.
I don't like that at all.
Was not cool at all. Was not a fan.
And some people are like, this isn't horror. I'm like, this. First of all, it is horror.
Yeah.
And like, just because you weren't scared doesn't mean other people aren't gonna get scared. I was spooked.
Yeah. I thought it had spooky elements to it. It definitely wasn't the scariest scary movie ever, but
Yeah.
I think that it was different. Like, it was very different from things I've seen, and I liked that it went deep into things that were real issues.
Yeah. I think that's why, so speaking of Lovecraft Country, like, it's kind of similar where it kind of blends, like, supernatural horror with, like, real horror, and I really like that type of theme where you're like, what's the real horror?
Right.
We don't know.
Right. Yeah.
They're both spooky. I don't like either of them.
Yes,
They're both
absolutely.
not good. So all I know is that the director, this was like his first big movie. It
Really?
released in the what is that called?
Sundance.
Sundance. Okay. That's what I thought, and I was like, that sounds really wrong. Sundance Festival
that's
2020.
Yeah.
It was very highly praised there, and that's when Netflix grabbed it. So it's, I think, a very good first movie for him.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think it's when you look up like the top scariest movies on Netflix, I think that's always number one, or at least it's been number one for a while. Like the best overall, like probably not the scariest, but like the best movie on there that, you know, if you want something good to watch.
It was good. It was well done. It was different, and it was fast. It wasn't a long movie. It was an hour and a half. It went quick. I did enjoy it. I actually liked it. So I already said main character was pass. The main villain was also pass.
Yeah, he was not sexy.
No.
The actor who played it is 6'7". This dude is tall as shit. Yeah, he's a lanky boy.
Yeah, for real. I said likelihood for survival was a 9 because I felt like the real villain was inside them all along. And I think that with enough therapy, anyone can overcome their inner demons.
Yeah. And it's interesting with, like, Rial, you know, she's talking to, like, the Night Witch. She's just not getting attacked as harshly as Bull. And it's...
No, she's cut, which brings up an interesting quote. She said at one point when she was talking to the nurse and discussing her scars. So there's these stylized scars all over her body. And she's talking to the nurse and basically saying that there are different scars depending on the tribe you're in. And she had gotten scars for her tribe on her face as a child. And then after her family had been murdered, she put the other tribe's scars on her body so that she belonged nowhere. And so she said, I survived by belonging nowhere, which I thought was really interesting because that's what she does with the Night Witch. She survives by not being against it and not being for the Night Witch, but just kind of talking to it and being this like middle person between Bull and the Night Witch.
Yeah. And the one conversation she has with Bull when he's bringing up like the ghosts and stuff, she's like, why would I be afraid of ghosts? Like, I've seen true horror. Like, why would I be afraid of ghosts? And I was like, you baddie.
Yeah,
like,
that was a really
ghosts?
good...
Nothing. I don't care.
Yeah, exactly. When you've seen all of the horrors of humankind,
right?
It's like
that shit's not
whatever
gonna affect you,
right? Would I recommend to a non-horror fan? I said yes. I feel like there's a lot more to this movie than horror.
Yeah, you get some, you know, history and death and all that
drama,
all that good stuff.
And sadness.
Lots of sadness. It is very sad.
I
was like, I like knew it was coming, and I'm like, it's just sad knowing
what's gonna pop up. That's why I gave it the score I gave it. So I gave it 4 stars because 4 hearts, excuse me. I gave it 4 hearts. I liked it. It's just it's sad, and I'm not a big sad movie person.
Yeah.
I think that the ending was more quote unquote happy, but knowing what has happened is really tough. I've read books before about some of the things that can happen in countries that experience what she experienced in Sudan. And it's really dark and really horrible. And it's not enjoyable when we come from this place where, like the worst thing that could happen to me is that I get fired from my job tomorrow, and that would be pretty tough, except that my whole family's alive. We're all well. Like,
right.
My home is
Yeah.
my home, and you don't have to experience all this. Like, even seeing them cross on the boat,
I know.
it's like, oh my God, there's so many people shoved into this little boat. They're basically dangling off the edges on this turbulent sea, trying to get from Africa to England. And it's like, that's absolutely insane.
It's crazy. You're just like on this little boat. They're just putting as much people as possible and just going and just see what happens. And, you know.
And it's sad because it's not like these people want to be doing this. It's not like they're like, oh, I'm just, you know, this is for fun for me. It's, there's a good reason for you to leave your homeland. There's a reason why you're escaping. And it's the same reason, like, some of it is similar reasons to why people came to America in the first place. Like, when we went to Italy and did a historical tour of Italy, they said how beautiful Italy was, how warm, and the amazing foods. And there's a reason people left and came to America from Italy, and it's because they were starving. It's because they didn't have food and they weren't being fed, and they had to find something different. They didn't come because they wanted to leave their beautiful, gorgeous homeland. They came because they had to. And so this is like a more extreme situation where they came because their very lives are possibly going to be
put into like some like shelter, shared with other people, little bed, and then maybe get a home.
Right, maybe get sent back, where they were at the beginning, the person was talking to them and was like, you're just going to get sent back. So to go through all that to get sent back to the horrible, war-torn place where you will probably end up dying if you have to go there again, it's unreal. And to get 75 pounds a week, I literally can't even fathom. You have to live off Cheetos and air,
like barely Cheetos,
right? Exactly.
It's like the quick noodle ramen.
Yes, it's ramen.
That
I think that was maybe when I was in college, living like an absolute like gremlin. When I somehow managed to spend only $30 a week on food for one person. That was for one person.
Yeah.
And I still was at my hungriest. So that would be $60, right? Yeah. That'd be $60 for two people. And I just said in American money, it's probably only $50. I mean, I'm making that up. But still,
I mean, you're at that point living off like rice, probably.
Right.
Rice.
And then they had to spend money to fix the house. Mm-hmm. So, how? I don't, sorry. I mean, I know that it's possible. Yeah. But it's like, it's hard to fathom.
No, it's difficult. And it's, you know, I like that this movie kind of brought that into light. You know, what like a lot of people probably aren't aware of that goes on. It's like, hey, what happens and what could happen and how some people are living, and it's sucks and it's awful.
And if you're lucky enough to be born in a place where that's not happening.
Yep, you got that privilege, so.
Yeah. Anyway, on that note.
That's what I feel like these like haunted ghost movies, like the good ones, always just have this sadness to them.
Yeah.
It's just like, oh.
I think that's really probably why I dislike horror so much, is because there's not a lot of happy endings. You know what I mean? There's not a lot of like.
Yeah, unless it's like a final girl situation. You're like, all right, I'm happy about that. But only the final girl's cool and everyone else sucked. Then it's like, that's cool. But it's usually upsetting.
That leaves you with an ick. Yeah.
I'm like trying to think like happy horror movies in my head, and it's like, a lot of them have to have at least something that's like upsetting.
Right.
You know, even if it's like a funny comedy zombie movie, like there's still something like Shaun of the Dead, you know, like his mom getting bit. Like that was sad, you know, like there's always something where it's like, damn it.
In Zombieland, when Bill Murray gets shot. And you're like, oh my god.
I know, it's just always gotta throw in something. There has to be conflict, right?
Yes.
So, and it's like with romance too, you know, there's conflict. Sometimes it's sad as shit.
Yeah.
So
speaking of, So the movie I picked for Demi for next week is called Love at First Sight. And I really feel like they dropped the ball and should have named it Love at First Flight.
Stupid. I guess it'd be more creative than Love at First Sight.
Yeah. So it's definitely a cheesy name, but I watched it, and I watched it for the first time only a couple weeks ago. It was recommended to me by my parents, by my mom, and I really, really enjoyed it. I immediately liked it, so I'm very curious your thoughts. I say that every week. I'm very curious your thoughts. I'm just always curious.
Is it based on a book? I feel like a lot of these romance ones are based on books.
I don't think so. It is I believe it's a Netflix original.
Okay.
Could be wrong, but it is only available on Netflix.
Boo.
Yeah, I know. Ugh, another week of Netflix. We are not doing good with that. So essentially, the story is about this girl who misses her first flight to England to go to her dad's wedding. Mm-hmm. And she runs into this boy who's flying back to England, and they are both on the same flight, and they wind up sitting next to each other on the plane. And it's about the way in which they talked and met, and the kismet involved in that interaction, and then the way in which they kind of try to find their way back to each other once they're separated.
Okay. That sounds cute.
So, yeah, I liked it. So I'm not going to say anything because I think if I start speculating, it's going to give things away, and I don't want to give things away.
Okay. Yeah, it definitely sounds like this movie's got stuff in it. It's not just straight up like boy meets girl. So,
no, it's because those movies are fun, but they are guilty pleasures. Like way back when, at the beginning, when I gave you that guilty pleasure movie, those are fun movies, but they're I'm trying to give you a little bit more higher caliber. Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was. Trying to give you higher caliber things. I don't know, in hopes that we get, more listeners.
We have some, some ground, better, higher rated stuff. I feel like we've been pretty good recently with ratings. You know,
yes,
like
we have been. We haven't been giving each other's movies really low ratings lately. I think it means we're learning more about each other, or maybe it means that we both have found like a comfort zone.
I mean, I'll definitely have to throw in a bad one for you.
Yeah,
but
I know.
The way you rate too, it's very like
chaotic.
Yeah, because I'm like, well, this is scary, but it's good, and then you're gonna rate it bad because you're like, oh, I was scared. That's not the way you should rate a horror movie. That's like me rating a romance because the romance was really good.
That's exactly how you should rate a romance.
Yeah, but if I'm like, I'm gonna rate this 2 stars because I really loved the romance in this. That's like the same thing as like you saying like the horror was really scary.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna rate it low. So, no, that's the point of horror.
Fair.
It's
That's
to be
fair.
Scary.
That's
gore,
fair.
I can see a lower rating for gore because that can get gross.
Sorry, if anyone could hear Copper in the background, that
I just
low
heard her
level.
now.
She's crying because it's past their dinner. It's 20 minutes.
Oh my goodness!
You hear her? Oh,
drama.
I have like 5 minutes. We're wrapping it up, dude. You know what? That's a fair point. I shouldn't be docking points because of the scares, but I feel like lately I haven't been docking because of scares. I've been docking for. You haven't been giving me horribly scary ones lately.
Yeah,
I have given a 5-star, which is better than you. You only give a 5-star to Anastasia and Pride and Prejudice, which were obvious 5 stars. So,
I'm a picky girl.
I know. That's fine.
Okay. I don't expect you to ever rate anything else a 5-star. So,
well, I gave Wolf of Snow Hollow, and I think that was really
that's one, and I'm surprised. So, I don't think we'll get that again. Maybe another.
Maybe you never know.
Yeah, I
Wolf
think
of
I know
Snow
the
Hollow
next
2.
movie. Yeah,
God.
I think I know the next movie I'm gonna give you.
Is it? Oh God! All right.
No, it's a good one.
Okay.
Classic.
You say so.
Classic.
Guess it is your turn to pick. A classic.
I need
all
to
right.
catch you. You need to get up to date on some of the classics. So I'm gonna throw another one at you.
Oh, all right. That's fine.
All right. Well, you can find us on Instagram at How Do You Watch This, and on TikTok as How Do You Watch, and that's basically it. You can email us to howdoyouwatchthis@gmail.com.
Thanks for listening.
Yeah.